I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. It's Friday, Halloween, trick or treat. We'll be handing out Reese's peanut butter cups in my house, so come on by. The biggest news of the day, I think is going to come today, but I don't yet have it, but it's going to be a Supreme Court decision on whether or not to allow a local option election in Saline County on sale of alcohol. I'm expecting a decision today. It'll have to come out by Monday so that people, when they go to the polls Tuesday, will know if they really are voting on a live issue or not. The court has reportedly been somewhat split internally on this question. I think that their earlier decision to allow the minimum wage petition to reach the ballot probably favors getting the Saline County petitions on the ballot. Again, we had the question of an initiative that had enough legitimate signatures, but not enough got counted at the time of certification. So we'll see what the Supreme Court does. Excuse me. That minimum wage case, by the way, is still rankling Jackson T. Stevens Jr., Steve Stevens, the millionaire heir of the Stevens financial fortune. He was the one who tried to get the minimum wage off the ballot. He's the Club for Growth chairman who hates taxes and hates big government and hates poor people getting a living wage. He's now given an interview to a local conservative outlet in which he says he's thinking about putting his money into a judicial recall law for Arkansas. That's a good way to punish judges who do things you don't like. Of course, upholding the Constitution, you would think, would be something a strict constructionist would want. He talked about that. He also talked about the voter ID law, which he said was part and parcel of this idea of the judges overruling the will of the people. Interesting story on our blog today on voter ID law in Texas and the real people who've been deprived of their vote because of the new voter ID law there, which was allowed to take effect. News in the Senate race, we talked this morning with the director of the Arkansas poll, which showed a very wide gap for Tom Cotton in the Senate race. She's a little nervous about the gap because it's so much bigger than others, but she defends her methods and explains them to us. If you're interested in polling, you might take a look at that. Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor, is in the state today, and Mike Ross and the Democratic Party gave him a rude welcome. Tom Cotton appearing with a governor who was so unhappy about hurricane aid for New Jersey. Tom Cotton voted against hurricane aid for New Jersey. A little hypocrisy at work. The Delta Caucus, which works to get money for the impoverished parts of Arkansas and Mississippi, was very unhappy that Tom Cotton, alone among 9 invited top political officials, shunned their caucus meeting in Helena, West Helena this week. Elsewhere, the Jefferson County clerk has been warned by the Election Commission to get her act in order. She violated any number of election laws in her conduct of the primary election. She remains under investigation by the state police in a case that has a special prosecutor appointed. Excuse me. The Arkansas Citizens First Congress today dropped a mailer opposing Issue 1. This is the constitutional amendment that would give the legislature total control over the rules of executive agencies, might allow them to incur into the activities of game and fish, highway department, and also the universities. It's a bad idea, but not much is being said about it. This is at least one more group that's trying to stir up opposition. Finally, I'd like to close with a short word about a man named Seth Moulton. He's a Democrat running for Congress in Massachusetts. He drew my attention a week or so ago when the Boston Globe reported that Seth Moulton had not wanted to talk about his heroic, decorated service in combat in the Middle East. He said it's just not very seemly for people to tell war stories, which brought to mind others of many parties who have used their war stories as stories in their political campaigns. Well, that story came closer to home this week. Seth Moulton is running against a gay Republican for Congress in Massachusetts. For that reason, the National Organizations for Families or for Marriage, which opposes same-sex marriage, endorsed a Democrat, Seth Moulton, because they'd rather have a Democrat in Congress than a gay person, which gives you an idea where they're coming from. Seth Moulton said he didn't want anything to do for it, that organization stood for everything he did not believe in, and he rejected their endorsement. There's an Arkansas angle because this same bigoted group is supporting Tom Cotton in the race for U.S. Senate and did a really unfair ad in which they dragged a poor Arkansas college student into a misleading bit of video to advance their cause. The Democratic Party has called on Tom Cotton to repudiate the National Organization for Marriage. Unlike Seth Moulton, Tom Cotton won't repudiate their tactics, and that'll give you an idea who earns a badge of courage and who does not. I'm Max Brantley. That's it for the week. Boo.